Now let's discuss this. We are now joined via Zoom by the spokesperson for the Jacob Zuma Foundation, Mr. Mzwanele Manyi. Mr. Manyi, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, for the benefit of our viewers, of course, we know that the private prosecution route by the former president came as a result of the NPA declining to prosecute advocate Billy Downer, since Mr. Zuma opened that case against him, the criminal case against him in October last year. Now, both Downer and journalist, of course, Karyn Maughan, will be appearing in court tomorrow. So perhaps let's start with how the former president is doing and his readiness for tomorrow.
Yeah, good afternoon, Punati, and to your viewers. Yeah, indeed, President Zuma is in high spirits and all of that. And after all this dark cloud of 15 months has been past him, that already has given him some a breath of fresh air. So he is in high spirits, I must say that. So he's looking forward to making sure that tomorrow's day becomes what it should be, which is justice. Tomorrow is supposed to be a day where equality before the law is demonstrated to be, where when the law says this, there are no people that are going to say the law does not affect me because I'm so-and-so. So indeed, we hope that tomorrow it's going to be a day for that. And also, tomorrow again is also going to be a day where usually President Zuma supporters generally are in court. Every time we've been in Pietermaritzburg court, his supporters will be there, wouldn't be able to even say hello to them because of the correctional services conditions. So tomorrow, if they do show up, if they are there, President Zuma will go and say hello to them. And he's really looking forward to thanking them because his supporters have been his pillar of strength. So given the opportunity tomorrow, he'll thank his supporters.
I'll get back to the 15-month dark cloud that you say that has been lifted. But let's talk about this. As he goes to court tomorrow, what does he have to say to those who say that he is putting the media on trial? Of course, that is a Karyn Maughan reference. To those who are saying that he is abusing the courts by going this route. And also to those that are saying that he is using this as a delaying tactic based on other charges that he is currently facing and using it as a personal vendetta.
Yeah, well, look, I think those are just desperate people that are trying to do that. Those are people that don't want people to face justice. The situation that we have is a very straightforward situation. Even I, not being a lawyer, I can see this is an open and shut case. We have a situation where the NPA Act on Section 41, Subsection 6 provides that nobody should give out, should disclose information. And at this point, I'm not even going to talk about what was in that information. I'm just simply going to restrict myself to what the law says. The law prohibits anybody from giving information, any item, any document, anything. You should never do that without the permission of the National Director of Public Prosecution. And we've got that violation right here. And this is the issue we're dealing with. That it happens to be Karyn, that it happens to be News 24 media and all of these people, it's neither here nor there. It's just a coincidence. Even if it was not Karyn, this thing would happen. Even if it was not media. This has got, I must make this point very clear. This has got absolutely nothing to do with media freedom, nothing to do with that. Had a media person reported directly from documents from court, this discussion would not be happening. This report that was done outside before even the documents were even commissioned. These were leaked documents that were given even before they were commissioned, even before they were filed. So, and there's documentary evidence to this. So this case really should not be a difficult case because all the evidence is right there. So this whole notion that freedom of speech this, freedom of speech that, and also about media freedom and all of that is really a red herring. It's really people that are just trying to evade justice, and that's what it is. But the law is very clear. What has happened is wrong, and this is all we're dealing with.
But of course, as we know, in an urgent application, Ms. Karyn Maughan going to state further in her application that, she's accused former President Zuma of having ulterior motives, that she has a right, in fact, to be reporting on such cases, that in fact, this medical letter was not actually leaked. It was already in public records, saying that Mr. Zuma is simply intimidating her. Just your response on that officially.
Yeah, this is part of what I call a red herring. If His Excellency President Zuma was doing this case following a court process that was opened, following people getting information from the registrar of court directly and all of that, if President Zuma was doing this case, that having happened, then you could make that kind of an assertion. Right now, the situation is very different. We're not dealing here with an honest journalist that took information where every other journalist can take information. I mean, the fact that if it's in the whole country, it's just Karyn that had this information should tell you that she would have got it in a way that is not formal, in a way that is not regular. How can it be that in South Africa as a whole, as a whole of the country, the only journalist that has this is just her? Surely you should, even you sitting there, Unat, you can actually see that there was some irregularity here. This is because she was given this information on a public holiday on the 9th of August. This is when she had this information. And by the way, even this whole, I'm sure Advocate Wolf will argue this thing in court, because even this whole notion that things were emailed and all of that, what people should know, what the public should know, is that the Pietermaritzburg court does not have what they call case management system, which by case line system, where you could argue that because of COVID, you could send things electronically and all of that. They don't have that system. They are still almost like a rural court. Everything is manual. Something must be handed in, something must be stamped, and that is then it ticks the box as having been filed. We are here dealing with documents that were not even commissioned. They didn't even have anybody's signature and all of that, which just shows that it was premature for Downer to authorize that, authorize even without authority himself, to give a wrong authority which he doesn't even have, and allow this thing to happen purely because Karyn had to be the first to break the news. This is all about breaking news and doing everything that is unlawful purely because it's to break the news. That's a problem. Now, if this is allowed, then it means that public prosecutors that are sitting with sensitive information can go and discuss this information at the bar, at a tavern, or anything. This is what this is trying to prevent. This is why the punishment for this kind of a crime is so heavy. This is heavier than almost like somebody that has murdered a person. People that have murdered, I've seen them getting 6 years and all of that, like Pistorius as an example. But in this case, the law is very stringent. It says you do this, you get 15 years in jail. That just shows the seriousness of this. And for media people that are taking this light and coming up with all kinds of red herrings and politics and all of this, they are really just doing exactly that. They are just trying to divert the truth. The truth is that the law has been broken, and there is going to be chronological evidence shown in the court tomorrow that this is when this happened and all of that. So this case, as I say, as a non-lawyer, I just see it as an open and shut case. The only thing we should be dealing with here is the mitigation of issues and all of that. But the facts of the matter are unchallengeable.
Now, you call it an open and shut case. Advocate Downer has asked for a deposit earlier of 1 million rand, because of the cost implications attached to private prosecutions, as we're also starting to understand. Has this deposit been made?
You see, this was also another tactic, because they know that President Zuma is not a person with resources. He thought that by so doing, he's going to throw that whole technicality is going to throw the case out. I've got good news for South Africans. That first thing is that there's not going to be R1 million given to him, but there's going to be some amount, but it's not going to be R1 million, nowhere near that. But some amount is going to be agreed, if not agreed already. But the case is proceeding. That technicality, I can tell South Africa is now the box has been ticked, but there won't be any million rand on the table. But the box has been ticked.
Finally, I just want to go back to what you said earlier on, of course, in asking you about Mr. Zuma's, how he's doing, his readiness for tomorrow, you obviously saying that he's in high spirit because this dark cloud of the 15-month has been lifted. Just on that, you've also, as a foundation, reacted, saying that it is an end of a travesty of justice. We spoke to a legal analyst this week, saying that there are a number of outcomes, of course, that could be expected from the Supreme Court of Appeal as to, how to determine, of course, if the Concord order will be upheld, basically saying that it's not, out of the woods yet, so to speak, for the former president. I mean, what does he have to say about that?
Yeah. Beg your pardon, I'm operating on the phone, so when calls come through, they interrupt. Yeah, no, look, if the Supreme Court of Appeal, in our view, has got a very, very easy job. They've got an easy job because in the first instance, the Judge Matojane, that made this, irrational ruling. He made that rational ruling with half the information. Where have you ever seen a thing like this, where a whole judge is basing his decision on a redacted information? Just on that alone, I mean, when we arrived at the Supreme Court of Appeal, the judges were saying, what is it that we are reviewing here? Because there's half information here. There's this medical report here, but it's got all kinds of blanked out and everything. What are we reviewing here? I actually don't know why it's taking so long even on their side to decide on this matter, because from where I sit, they should have even decided it on the spot, that matter, because fact of the matter is that when that decision was taken, it was taken on redacted report. So that alone should be enough to throw the thing out, firstly. Secondly, it doesn't matter whichever way it goes. What must be very clear here is that President Zuma don't want to go back to jail in any event, because when you get a parole for two reasons. One is either you've applied for it, two is either you just qualified for it. In this instance, President Zuma did not apply for this parole. It was the government itself, through its government system, that made the assessment, that made the evaluation, and they decided that this is the right way to go. Now, if it turned out that it's a wrong way to go, whose problem is that? It cannot be that President Zuma can now be punished because of some government malfunctioning or government not knowing what it's doing. And all of that. But we're also very clear, by the way, that that decision that was taken was a proper decision because all of the boxes that need to be ticked were all ticked. And if Matojane had asked for a proper medical report, he would have seen that. So we're very clear, whichever way you look at it, His Excellency President Zuma is not going back to jail. So all those that are still hoping for that to happen, they might as well relax. It's not going to happen. President Zuma is a free man. He'll continue to be a free man.
All right, Mr. Manyi, thank you so much for coming to the show and also for your time. Really do appreciate it. That is, of course, the Jacob Zuma Foundation spokesperson, Mr. Mzwanele Manyi, saying that the former president is ready for tomorrow.